Chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you know exactly how powerful a podcast can be. Whether it's for entertainment, personal growth, commute time, or your daily, maybe weekly workout in the gym, podcasts are the medium that millions of people use to get the content that they're looking for. And the question I get most often is, how do you create your podcast? If you haven't heard about Anchor, I'll tell you because a good friend told me. First of all, it's free. We always like to lead with the good stuff. The platform has all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast, all from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Anchor then goes to work for you by distributing your podcast episodes for you so it's able to be heard on all the top platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Best of all, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's a one-stop shop to create your podcast and get your voice heard and your story told. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Healthy conversations can improve relationships. We cannot build anything if we don't know how to communicate effectively. 90% of communication is nonverbal. However, the 10% of verbal conversations we do have can often be the most damaging. Let's start planting seeds and learn different ways to converse. Visit www.8conversationstohave.com. That's www.8conversationstohave.com to see author John Martin Sr.'s insight and perspectives on effective communications.
Representing East Oakland, man.
Welcome back, guys. Another episode of the Hawk Vision Podcast. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you joining. And like always, we ask you to like, share, subscribe. Share this with other visionaries just like yourself. I couldn't be more excited about the guest that we have today. She is somebody I've been watching for quite some time. Absolute rock star when it comes to the world of SEO. So that's what we're going to learn about today. She's a world-class content creator, superstar blogger, digital marketer that is racking up accolades like nobody's business. Work has been featured in some of the biggest brands that you've probably seen, in print or on TV, TJ Maxx, Express, some other places. But all of that is going to come out. I don't want to waste any more time, guys. We have the one and only Tamara Sykes on the show. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Gonna be fun. Like I said, I'm super excited. Been watching you for a while, and you have like everybody's secret sauce that I think we're all chasing right now as entrepreneurs.
Oh, thank you.
She's like, yeah, second nature to me. I don't really think about it like that.
I appreciate it.
No worries. So before we jump into all like the greatness, let's talk about your background. I hear the myth is you started a blog because you were addicted to wearing a scarf whenever you wanted to wear a scarf, and like that's how things started.
Yep, that's actually the truth. I started a blog simply because I actually love scarves, and I actually painted scarves by hand, and then people were like, how do I wear them? And I was like, cool, I'll make a blog about it. That's literally it. Like from a photo shoot to a blog.
That is so funny. And how did you recognize that this was going to be, what was the trigger to say, you know what, this is going to turn into a business, right? Because, you've been in it for a while, of course. Blogging is something that everyone tries to do. How did you know it was something that you could pull the trigger on and it would be a business for you?
How did I know? I didn't know. I had no idea. I mean, I have this thing in life where like, I always just make daring decisions.
Okay.
And that was just a daring decision. I honestly didn't really know what blogging would entail. Like, I was just like, people are asking about this and I'm going to be able to answer them. And I just did it. And I never doubted or thought about, I couldn't do it. I just did it. Like, I literally, from a photo shoot, literally did a photo shoot with a friend, got home and said, I'm just going to make this into a blog.
I love it. The important part of that, though, is like most people overanalyze before they launch, right? And it was just something you were excited about and wanted to do it, so you started. That's awesome.
Yep. Which is why my biggest advice to anyone, like, I always get asked that question is like, what should I do? Can I do it? And I'm just like, just start. Like, start.
Wow.
Start and evolve along the way.
Start and evolve. But what about the perfection syndrome? Everybody wants the site to be perfect. Everybody wants, everything up and running perfectly. Do we forget what it looks like to grow in front of our customer or in front of our audience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think actually we are scared to grow in front of our customer. And I think it's because, especially for the world today, we've become so accustomed to picture perfect all the time. Like, I always say social media has helped with this, but we are so accustomed to seeing like picture perfect moments, and a photo captures a moment. It doesn't capture a process, right? So because we're so accustomed to all that type of photography and all those photos, it has, I think, increased the perfectionism streak in all of us. Like, I always have to deal with it myself, because back in the day, like, I wasn't like, oh, that person on Instagram has a great website, so I need to do it that way. I was just like, oh no, people are asking me a question, let me answer it.
Right.
And today, because we're so accustomed to the photos everywhere and we're accustomed to seeing all the great websites, we get stuck in like, well, I can't grow in front of my audience because my audience wants to see that perfection, which is the complete opposite of what your audience wants to see. Your audience wants to see you grow. Like, a lot of people follow me and like chat with me simply because they've seen me from doing the scarves and like doing all that. Like, they're just like, wow, you've just grown so much, and that's why they stick around. A lot of there are people that come in and they follow me now and they're like, oh yeah, like, I know you do SEO, but the people who like have paid me over and over and over are people who followed me from back then and have seen my progress.
Yeah.
And that always is like a reminder of like, hey, like, you can evolve along the way. Like, my dad even says this. He's like, what you choose today doesn't mean that you have to get stuck with it with tomorrow. And that's a freeing thought, to be like, okay, like, I can start today with something and continue to grow and enhance what I do. I may pivot at sometimes, I may change my mind, but that's all okay, because that's what growth is. Like, that's
absolutely. What I love is that you remind me of the Henry J. Kaiser old quote where they said, Henry J. Kaiser's quote, something to the effect of find a need and fill it. Right. Yeah. And so you were just so bent on answering the questions that the business grew itself. I love that. And I'm excited about it. So let's go backwards. For those of us that only know the surface level of the word, what do you want the world to know about search engine optimization?
What I want to know, it is the key to making more money in 2020 and beyond.
I like that answer. Keep going.
Yeah. It's the key. What I think a lot of us, like, again, it's back to this concept. Like, SEO is a concept and an aspect of digital marketing that there's only a really small percentage of the world that truly understands it, which is why people that are SEO specialists or SEOs, they get paid big bucks, right?
Yes.
But the biggest thing is that, especially in, like, how do I put this? Especially in, like, the small business community, it's actually one of the most, like, inaccessible aspects of digital marketing, because people are just like, well, it doesn't matter. Because most time when you start a small business, the first thing you hear is you need to have a website and you need to be on social media.
Correct.
No one tells you about Google My Business. No one tells you about making sure that people can find your products when you are on social media. Like, no one tells you about that. And so what ends up happening is the big brands end up dominating search engines simply from the fact that they don't get competition, especially in a local arena.
Right.
And what COVID has done actually is make people realize that they can't just depend on getting people to tag them in like Instagram stories, or getting people to like share them on social media. Like, they can't just wait for that. Right. They have to be able to be consistently found online and people are looking for something. And the reason it's actually the best way to make money from 2020 onward is because if you think about like the whole term Black-owned businesses,
yes,
I say this like multiple times on Twitter, but it just really drives home a really good point, is that the people who optimized their site for that phrase and were proud of that got a 300% surge in traffic just in June and July.
Ooh. And that had to transition into sales.
Oh yeah, it transitioned to sales. Like, some people are just like, I can't keep up. Wow. And that's the thing, is that in a lot of ways, as small business owners, small like brand owners, we get so caught up in, I need to be on social media to get sales only.
Right.
And then you forget about the fact that people are always searching. Like 93% of website traffic comes from a Google search.
Wow.
So like if 7% is coming from social media or somewhere else, why would you leave that 93% on the table?
Wow.
Like, it's just, so like, what I want people to know is that SEO is a way to make money. It's not just some techie coding term that's like the people at Google only know about,
Right.
you know, or your web designer only knows about. Like, it is a way to make money every single day when you're working, when you're sleeping. It is a viable way to make money. And it's going to be probably one of the best ways for brands to make money moving forward, because there's so much happening. There's like so much conversation happening about social media. Like, should you be on it? Should you not be on it?
Right.
Is it good for your health? Is it good for your mental health when it comes to like people of every age? Like, there's so much conversation happening, not to mention that people are like finally realizing they don't own those platforms.
Yes.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't own it. So like, it can come down any day. Like in the Caribbean, like content creation sphere right now, like YouTube is just turning off people's monetization because they feel like all of a sudden Carnival is not, I want to say, like appropriate for.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. But I'm just like, you know, like there's just things like that happening, and like you have no control. You don't get to be in the boardroom and decide, or, you know, or help make that decision. So yeah, use social media, but do not forget that SEO is an absolutely viable way to make money.
So first, I want to say, we here at the Hawk Vision Podcast absolutely endorse Carnival, and we are a fan of all things Carnival. But it's important that you bring that up, because I once heard, I want to say her name is Dana Chanel, but she mentioned that if your business doesn't have a home, then your business is homeless. And so if you're depending on just Instagram or Facebook or whatever the case is, that you could lose your business at any time. And most people don't understand that thought process.
Yeah, they don't. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, like you're only saying that to scare me. And it's like, no, I really, like, anyone that says that, like, we are not trying to scare you. We're just trying to share with you a very harsh reality, is that we get really accustomed to operating on platforms that we don't own.
Yeah.
And we get so comfortable that we neglect, like, literally, what I see with anyone I've worked with is that they tend to neglect their website. Like, it's collecting dust. And, I mean, that's like, I even had this analogy when it comes to digital marketing, that SEO is your foundation and your website is the house. And in order for your website to stand up and actually work how it needs to for you, it needs to have this solid foundation. But social media is like the chimney. Like, it's just showing people or making people aware that you exist.
Wow.
Like, that's it. But like, you can always knock the chimney down and still have a house, right?
Absolutely. But I think we get this false sense of security, right? Because like the average person goes to GoDaddy and they secure their domain and they start, do their little, even myself, you go to GoDaddy, you build your domain, and then they give you this website builder, right? For those of us that are non-techie, like I told you, I'm low tech, high check.
Yeah.
So we build our website with the builder, right? And then they tell you, in the builder, they're like, for SEO, tell us exactly what your name is, exactly what your business does, and fill out these 3 boxes and we'll make sure you show up. They're not telling us the full story, right?
No, not at all. And I mean, honestly, they're not SEO companies. Like, when you look from the business side of it, you like, especially when you're an SEO, like specialist like myself and a coach, you realize that people get turned off by the fact that they have to put more work into something. So
yes,
even like, I used to actually work with small business owners. Like, I used to have a portfolio of like 150 small business owners. Like, think like your plumber, your electrician, just your regular mom and pop shop.
Sure.
And like, one of the things that whenever I talked to them, I would realize that like it felt like homework. It was like, I don't want to have to do this.
Yes.
And that's how most of us think. Whereas social media is a quick win. It's like, hey, I can put this up and I can see at least in the next 15 minutes if people are reacting to it or not.
Right.
And that's good and well, especially when you're marketing, because that's what ads do. But like, is that going to sustain your business for the long term? Like, is your post going to show up on that person's feed at midnight if they were looking for a plumbing service?
Yes.
No. Guess what they go do? Guess what they do?
They go to Google. Yep. Absolutely.
And they search. So it's like, especially for website companies, being in that business is hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, I've been there. It can be tough.
Sure.
Just because of the barrier and the mindset shift you actually have to get people to have. And it's easier for a website builder company to focus solely on website building. And then usually what happens, like even hosting companies tend to do this. They'll say, okay, if you want to build your SEO, pay us more money, because they know how much work they're going to have to do just from getting you to think differently about it. But they're not going to tell you the full story because they're in the business of getting you to build a website. Whether you use it or not, is not their problem.
Right. You know, and that's why websites go to die, is because everyone else is on social media.
Exactly.
So that leads me to another question, though, because I have this debate with some of my counterparts, some business owners, some coaches, and my debate is, they're like, Chuck, why don't you do more lives? Why don't you do more lives? And I feel like I may be a dinosaur, right? But I feel like the significant part of your audience is going to miss out when you do a live, because they can't go back always and watch it. And I like to create a living resume of success, right? And so the reason that I have this podcast and is distributed across all the major platforms, as well as the upgrade that's coming to the website soon, you'll be able to go back and watch everybody's full interview, listen to everyone's full interview, because if this is what you're looking for, personal growth, cheat codes to success, search engine optimization, you'll be able to not only go listen to it, but you'll be able to hear exactly who I was talking to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a conversation that happens all the time when it comes to like video, live video, podcast, audio even, and then like text.
Yes.
And I will say this, when it comes to technical SEO, people always default to text, mostly because you can find the information that you want. It's easier for Google's algorithm to read, and any search engine algorithm to read.
Yes.
And then on top of that, it's like, as much as we like to say we don't like to read, we actually do. So it's kind of ironic. But when it comes to audio and video, that's where the conversation gets even more interesting, because with video, again, it's back to this like quick win thing where people are just like, oh, if I do a video and if I do it live, like everyone's going to join. And one thing I can say is that I may have thought like that, like pre being a parent, actually.
Yes.
But a lot of the money that people spend actually ends up in that space when you become a parent. It isn't not an age, it's like just a lifestyle or life season. And parents don't have time. We don't have time to sit and watch a live. We are probably the people that drive some of them, like most of the searches, because we always need something. We always need something.
Yep.
We either need something for our child, we either need something for us, we either need something for our house, and we need it now. We need it yesterday. And lives are great, but again, that live on whether it's Periscope or Twitter or on Instagram is only helping that platform.
Right.
Unless you download it and make it a video and in some way embed it on your website and create a post around it, it is not helping bring any traffic to your website unless you said in that live, hey, go to my website.
Right.
It's not helping anybody but that platform. So it's just one of those conversations. At the end of the day, text always wins. Photos even will win over video, to be honest. But if you're going to do a video, I would always suggest go the format of YouTube and do YouTube SEO, because then what happens is, and I know people have seen this, is when you search, if there's a YouTube video snippet, like you said, here's how to do SEO in your video, and if someone searched how to do SEO, it would literally pull up the video and actually choose the exact set of minutes. If it was 1.02 to 1.10, it will show you the exact snippet that the person that you answer that question for that person.
Yes.
In the search results, and then it will again show all the text results.
Wow.
So if you're gonna do video, it's always you got to do it more strategically. I'm not saying you can't do lives. I do lives, but
sure.
For me, at the end of the day, where I get most, seriously, most of my like traffic, where I get most of my clients from, is from text and it's from search engines. Like social media is second on my analytics, like all the time.
I love it. I
All the
love it. I will say one of the people that I have noticed does really, really well with converting their video to text and creating campaigns around it is Kashira Moffitt.
Yeah,
I'm sure
her
you're
Facebook
familiar.
coach.
Yeah, she is the absolute truth. I'm so glad she was a guest as well. I watch her and I can only imagine how methodical her and her team are because everything pulls you right back to the center offering, right? And
Oh
so
yeah, very strategic.
yeah,
Super.
she's absolutely awesome. And so my question being is for the average person, right?
Mhm.
Whether they hire an expert like yourself or not, and yes, I'm endorsing that you hire.
Thank you.
Absolutely. How much time does should someone be spending on search engine optimization? Like, is it something you visit every quarter? Is it something you change every week? How does somebody approach a campaign for search engine optimization?
So when you're starting out, the first thing you need to do is have in your mind, like, I'm going to tackle this bit by bit in a 4 to 6 month period. I say that 4 to 6 month period because that's how long it takes Google to reevaluate your site, especially,
Wow.
and then start showing those results in like search result pages.
Okay.
A lot of people, like, especially when I talk to them the first time, they're like, "Oh, I need to go do this tomorrow," and I'm like, "Actually, let's hold up, because number one, you're gonna burn yourself out, which I'm not here for,
Yes.
and secondly, SEO is not social media. Social media is like I can go change my bio, I can change my captions, change my hashtags real quick, and oh, I'm cool. That's not how SEO works.
Right.
You need to give yourself time. You need to pace yourself, and you need to make sure you're doing it right from the beginning, because if not, you don't want to end up in what we call like a banned state on search engines, because they do ban for things that get you, like, the best way to say it is a get results quick scheme or get rich quick scheme. They do exist.
Okay. Okay.
When it comes to SEO. So I always say, like, talk to an expert, at the very least do an SEO audit with an expert and understand like what you need to change on your website, and then take time over a 4 to 6 month period to change all of those things. Now, what's also great about it too is that there are ways to manage your SEO daily and weekly, and you can also batch it in some way. So, like, for me, or like anyone who's a content creator at heart, and you're creating blog posts, like, as you're creating blog posts, you can actually optimize all your content for
Right.
SEO right away as you're writing it, and then just upload it in at once all into your website, and then it just works from there. Like, as it publishes, it starts working, it gets on Google's radar, and it just keeps working.
So you know you've killed someone's idea of what they were doing for their business because you said hashtags are not SEO, right there.
They're not.
You just messed it up for like half of us.
I know. I'm sorry. But the truth, I will say this: SEO, you use it every day on social media. That is the easiest way to get someone to, like, be like, okay, you know what? Like, I use hashtags, which is basically like keywords, and because they stole the idea from Google. So anyone to know that, like, they stole that idea from Google.
I love it.
But that's not what it is. It does not work the same way. When you're creating content for social media, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as your website, because what Google's looking for at the end of the day is someone that's actually going to help somebody.
Wow.
With social media, it doesn't really have to help anybody. I mean, I know we want to think that way, but it doesn't really have to help somebody. Like, on social media, the whole goal of it is to be emotional, or to, like, look really good, because that's what stops people from, like, scrolling further. They just stop on that post.
Right.
On your website, when it comes to, like, Google, Yahoo, Bing, they're not looking for someone to stop necessarily. They want to make sure that it's actually answering their question. You got to think about it. You can answer a question in a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, all over the board as far as time is concerned. So
Right.
Completely different premises as social media versus SEO. So yes, I love hashtags. We all need to use them, but it's not the same thing, because hashtags are more so about, like, where do I want my photo to show up?
Right.
Where do I want my video to show up? SEO is like, what is my audience? What is that customer? What is my reader going to enter into Google, Bing, Yahoo to find the answer they're looking for? It's not about you when you're doing SEO. And that usually, yes, it hurts some people's feelings, especially business owners, because this is your baby.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get it, but at the end of the day, you're here to make money from that customer, and in order for you to make money, you need to solve their problem. So you can't think about it just from, oh, like, what would I do? It's not about you. It's about the person who's going to pay you money.
I love
and
it.
help your business be profitable. That's the whole point.
I love it. I love it. It simplifies things. Let me ask you this. One of the things that I love about the way that you approach your business, even with search engine optimization, is that you approach it through blogging and self-empowerment. How did you come up with the packaging to know that this was something that people could consume and digest, being, packaged in that manner?
I did a lot of listening. So back to that whole concept of what are the problems that your customer is facing? What are the problems that even your reader is facing? Even if you're not doing an actual paid service yet, like, what are the problems? And what I realized as I listened, which meant going on Twitter, going on... Oh, my daughter.
I love it. I love it. She wants part of this.
She does. But, like, going on Twitter, going on Instagram, I mean, people that I knew, like, talking to them, people in person. Like, I've talked to, like, my husband's boss. I've talked to friends. I've talked to business owners, like, in my community. Like, just talking to people, everyday conversations. Once I listened to what they were saying,
yes,
a lot of them were just saying, these are the common struggles. I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
Social media doesn't seem to be giving me good ROI, and I'm doing all this manual work, which is like finding the hashtags, creating content, like creating videos, making photos, like doing all that stuff. That is a lot of work. And then the other thing is, like, people still aren't finding me, and even after I do all this, I'm still not getting the traffic that I want.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, okay. The other thing is, socially, like, Instagram is the one that tends to be the villain, unfortunately. But as Instagram has changed their algorithm, what business owners and content creators have found is that they have to spend a lot more time on Instagram in order to get the best results.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that most business owners, whether they have kids or not, even if they're not married, like whatever like life season they're in, they don't want to spend all that time attached to their phone, because when they're attached to their phone like that, they are spending less time in their zone of genius.
Right. They're not making money.
Yeah, and that is frustrating for business owners. It is very frustrating. And that frustration usually results in, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to, like, share anything, or like, oh, I can never do it perfectly. Like, I can't evolve. And like, SEO's whole, like, foundation is completely based on evolution. Like, that's why I love it. That's why I started using it myself, is because I was like, as I kept going through different life seasons, I was just like, I don't have this time. Like, I don't have this time to sit here and, like, be on Instagram more.
Right.
And see less results, right? And I also want to be able to read a book and like, listen to a podcast, be on a pod. Like, I want to have that time.
Right.
So, when I realized that business owners were just having that struggle, it just made sense to me to package it together as self-empowerment as well as multiplying yourself, because that's what we all want as brand owners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Duplication.
Multiply ourselves. And speaking to that mindset and showing that SEO is a great solution for that has been going very well for me, and I hope to continue doing it.
So that I love that answer, and it makes sense. So now it makes me wonder, because we have all these automation tools, right? We have Buffer, we have Hootsuite, we have all these things that allow us to, spend a day calendaring our content and putting everything in and posting automatically. But SEO, if I'm understanding it right, is something that's like a living, breathing part of the business. It's not something you can set up one time and automate.
I mean, so it's actually like a passive marketing strategy. So let me explain that further.
Please.
So, because it's better to, when you put numbers to it, it makes sense. So here's the numbers. A tweet, for example, lasts 18 minutes. It's relevant for 18 minutes on the internet.
Okay.
A Facebook post lasts 5 hours. An Instagram post lasts 21 hours. Right?
Okay.
A LinkedIn post lasts 24 hours. YouTube videos or posts, because they have all different options now, last 20 plus days.
Wow.
Pinterest lasts 4 months, and a blog post lasts 2+ years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where you start seeing the burnout, if I just use Instagram as an example, that's why people tell you to post every day.
Right.
In order for you to stay relevant, you have to. Because if it's only going to last 21 to 24 hours, you have to have something coming back up. Like, again, in order for people to be like, oh, she's still there.
Right.
Like, you have to have something coming up. Whereas with a blog post, right, you have 2+ years. Information could change. You can update it. You can say, like, no, that doesn't work anymore. And the thing is that it's ranking the entire time.
Wow.
Like, that's why when you search for a lot of things, like, I mean, I search a lot. We all do.
Right.
Like,
we are not going to go through search histories in Google. Like, that's not what we're doing.
I'm just like, I searched for something yesterday, but I've searched for things that, I mean, I do it all day, every day, because I actually also like to search for fun. So
Sure.
It's me. But let's say you search for Black-owned businesses right now, right?
Yes.
I can guarantee you the post that's at the top is probably from 2019 or 2018.
Wow.
That person planted that seed 2 years ago. And just because a trend hit, unfortunately that was a trend, but a trend,
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
They got, again, backside number 300% of traffic. So, like, the best way to understand it is that SEO is about planting the seeds today that you want to reap tomorrow.
I like it.
This is not like again, I'm putting a post up and I'm expecting people to all of a sudden like it and like take action right away. Because if I think of anything, right, most of us see something and we're like, oh, I want that, but we don't buy it right away unless that was solving our problem in this like second. But with SEO and like where you're putting your energy, like you want to put the effort towards like making sure that your like copy on your website is optimized for SEO, basically meaning it has the keywords or the phrase that someone is going to search for to find the answer to their problem. And you can do that today. You can do it, like I said, 2 years in the past. You can do it tomorrow after this podcast. You can be like, I'm going to do it right after this podcast and go find my keywords. You can do all that and know that you will get results.
I love it. Are there different types of SEO?
Yes, there are.
Good Lord.
There definitely are. So the one that I tend to talk about the absolute most, because it's the one that people miss out the most, is on-page optimization, which has to do with keywords, making sure your content's original. There's no duplicates of your content on your website because Google will penalize you for that, for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you say duplicates, what do you mean? What do you mean by duplicate content?
So literally like plagiarism, like plagiarizing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
okay.
the best way to explain it. So, like taking the same sentence and putting it everywhere, Google will penalize you in a heartbeat.
So no trap music choruses, right? That's like
exactly. That's actually true. Yeah, don't do that. But like that's what people like. They miss out on that because again, they build a website to be pretty most of the time. They don't build it to actually like help anybody when it comes to copy. But if your copy, again, you have to go back to making sure that you have the words in there that someone would actually use to find something. So that's on-page optimization. Then there's off-page optimization, which is having reviews. That is like the biggest thing that small businesses miss. Like, wow, I've had arguments with people on this, business owners, because they don't want to get reviews because they don't want anyone to tell them that they're bad. Right. That's the first thing that they say, and it's like, no, like Google actually trusts peer feedback. Like the more peer feedback you have, you can actually rank higher, especially in a local community, because Google wants to know what people are saying about you. And if more people are talking about you and writing reviews for you, Google's like, keep putting them at the top. Keep putting them at the top. And the best way to do that as a business owner without, like, even if you don't have a website yet, is to get a Google My Business listing. Like, tell Google that you exist. Send you a postcard with a little code. You enter the code, and because it's technically a Google listing, Google always ranks Google because they love themselves, which is a good thing. And because right, of course. And now locally, you are gonna get ranked because you're getting reviews. You have your website, or like at least even if you don't have a brick and mortar location, your website's there, your phone number's there, like information people will be able to find you is there, and then they can actually leave reviews for you on Google. And when I search, people also don't know this, is that when you search for something local, especially like Caribbean restaurant near me, I love to use that example because I'm always looking for Caribbean restaurant. If you search that, guess what pops up before all the text results?
Do tell.
The Google listing.
I love
It's that
it.
map that you see. You see the map.
Yes. I'm thinking the ad shows up, but you're right. It's that little map with the 3 top places. Yep.
The map will always beat even your website out.
Wow.
On search results. And guess what? Amazon can't compete with you there. Because they are not local.
I love it.
There.
I love it. Anytime you get a chance to beat Amazon, you're doing something right.
Exactly, but they cannot compete with you there. You know, like they can't compete with you there. They absolutely can't.
I love it.
You as a small business owner and a brand owner have the advantage. And a lot of people get so focused on, I want to be big, that they forget about, like, just outside their door.
Right.
And they miss out on reviews. And even if you, like, again, with Google is very strict about, you either have to, like, deliver something to your customer, or you actually have to have, like, a virtual office. Like, you have to have some sort of, like, address in some way.
Sure.
But even if you can't do the Google My Business listing, even just having a reviews page on your website, like a testimonials page on your website, also helps with that. And another part of off-page SEO, because again, what Google, Yahoo, Bing is looking at is that they want to see that other people trust you.
Right.
It's kind of like, if I, like, you, like, just like I'm on this podcast and, like, you're saying, hey, like, trust Tamara for SEO.
Absolutely.
I trust her to be on my podcast, right?
Right.
And then someone else does it, and then 10 other people do it. Then the person who just follows me on Twitter or finds me via all those avenues is going to say, I don't even need Tamara to sell me.
Exactly.
SEO.
Exactly.
These like 12 people said so, right?
Yes.
Hopefully. That's what reviews.
Hopefully.
That's what having reviews and testimonials does online. And that's why we say it's off-page SEO, because it's not something that you can control. But that's a good thing. You want to bring to light that people are actually saying good things about you. And if you get something that's bad that's said about you, then the best thing to do as business owners, and again, I've had times because they don't like to hear this, but don't go off on people.
The Twitter rant.
Do not do it, because guess what? People can find it. Right. Everything online is searchable. So do not do it. It can be found. And if I'm a potential customer and I see how you treat somebody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your website's ranking first. I'm the next person.
I absolutely agree. I'm a fan of professionalism, and I understand that, you know, it's a dying art. I understand that people have gotten to where everybody wants this reality show version of their website, their business, and their bossiness, or whatever that word is. But I'm a fan of professionalism because I know what a network means to people, right? In terms of having people that trust you and want to refer you. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so like that's like what we call off-page optimization for SEO. And that, I mean, there's also aspects of off-page like PR, like getting mentioned in a podcast, and then that podcast having that, like, having your name in there, like, in the description. That's showing Google, Yahoo, and Bing that someone else trusts you. Yeah. And the more of that you have happen, whether that's getting a mention on Forbes, that's a big one. Or getting a mention on another blog is actually so. It's like showing other people, and showing Google, Yahoo, and Bing that someone else's trust you. That literally helps also bring up what we call your authority on search engines. Like, okay, now you're a trusted source, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
You're no longer just a website that just popped up online. You're now someone that people trust. And Google's like, okay, if these 12 people trust, then I'm going to keep pushing that person's website up. So that's SEO in a nutshell. And honestly, after that, it's just rinse and repeat.
I love it.
Rinse and repeat the same thing repeatedly. You might, based on language of the time, you might need to change words up a little bit, but like rinse and repeat. And again, back to the fact that SEO, one of the most beautiful things about SEO is that Google, Yahoo, and Bing, they love when you update old posts. So like you don't necessarily have to create new blog posts like every single week, which tends to be what we as content creators always say, is like create more. Like,
right. That's what we rack our heads around.
Yeah, like, keep like chugging out more posts. Like, you gotta have a post next week. That's not true. You can have one post that's 600 words that has a ton of great content. And then you're like, you know what? The next year you're like, you know what? Oh, there's another thing I should add in here. You add it. And you just keep adding 2 years. Like, every single time. You just keep adding 2 years to that blog post. Because Google is going to come back and like, ooh, they like updating their post. Let me just keep making sure I keep coming back and reading it and updating it. And this is a trusted source. And it literally is rinse and repeat. So, like, SEO really is like putting all that work in the beginning. Right. And then just making tweaks along the way. Which is literally what business is. Which is literally what helps, like, huge brands like Amazon, Target. That's what makes them what they are.
Right. I'm so excited. There's so many hacks that you've been giving right now. It's like, it's so awesome. It's even better than I thought it was. And I had, like, in my head, I was like, oh, this is going to be fire. Now it's like, Jesus, it's so awesome.
Yay! I'm happy I'm helping. That's what I'm here. I want to bring, I want to bring it, but I want to make SEO more accessible.
Yeah.
Just because, like, when I like done my own market research and listening to business or listening to people, like, a lot of people don't really realize that they're using SEO the whole time. And so they get so frustrated when, like, they hear it, or, like, if people like me just start saying it repeatedly, they're like, what is that? Like, that's just too much work. Like, one more thing I got to do. I don't have time for this. Because, again, as a brand owner, business owner, like, do you want to take more time away from your zone of genius? Absolutely not.
Right.
But just think of the number, 93%. 93%. And let's not even mention, I got to bring up this number too, because this is the one that really gets people.
I love it.
Because you're just like, okay, so 93% website traffic, right?
Yes.
From a search. Now, 84% of that always comes from Google. And then how many searches does Google process in a day? 3.5 billion.
Wow. So that you have to have your hat in the arena. Like,
yeah, like, why would you leave money on the table? That's my question. When someone's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, cool. So you're telling me that out of 3.5 billion searches per day on Google alone, remember there's more than one search engine, so we're just talking about Google at this point.
Right.
You want to take yourself out of the running? That is fine. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just telling you the numbers.
I'm just going to take up your space. Exactly. Right.
We always say we want to have a seat at the table, right? This has been a huge conversation, even with, like, Black Lives Matters. Like, we want to have a seat at the table.
Yes.
But, like, we refuse to go into spaces where we would actually have a seat at the table.
I love it.
It confuses me sometimes. Because, like, everyone's like, Instagram's not giving me my due. Instagram, like, I've seen so many brands, even in the past, like, since June and July, when there was, like, a surge in traffic from Instagram specifically.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of brands talk about, like, now Instagram's not showing my stuff in the feed. I'm like, I don't need to, like, be mad about that. But, like, you could have had your website and the same content on your website the whole time.
Right. And you could have spent some more time on that. Wow.
Yep.
Getting close to wrapping up. Tell me about NextLevelPresence.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So NextLevelPresence is my baby. Clearly, but, like, it's actually the brand where I focus solely on teaching SEO, and it's strictly for entrepreneurs and content creators. I still talk about it on Baby Girl, as you know, like, on my Twitter. Like, it's not going to stop me from ever talking about it under the Baby and Girl brand. But Baby and Girl is usually lifestyle about my experience as a woman, period. So for me, it felt very, like, inauthentic to keep forcing it in the same conversation.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the audience tends to want different things. Like, the people, when they're following me on Baby and Girl, especially on Instagram specifically, or even on my blog, they want to know, like, about my immigration experience.
Yes.
They want to know about, how I'm navigating COVID with the family. They want to know what my daughter's doing. Like, is she potty training? Is she saying no? Is she interrupting? Like, they want to know that stuff.
Right.
They want to know my therapy sessions, because that's where most of my self-empowerment goes. Because I talk about it, like, yes, as a business owner, but there's a whole set of things happening on the back end as to why I choose to run my business this way.
Right.
As well as these are things that help me navigate daily life. Like, therapy is a big one. So I talk about all that.
Listen, with this administration, therapy and I don't know what the opposite of immigration is in terms of just leaving, but we might have to figure out that process too, because
Listen,
yeah,
it's a lot.
it's a lot.
You are a human behind a business. So like that's what a Baby and Girl brand does. And so I created Next Level Presence so I can get to like straight to it. Like
Yeah.
just get straight to it. Like here's SEO. We're gonna talk about it. And we're talking about all the different layers. We're gonna challenge and like shift your mindset about how to approach it. We're gonna talk about what it does help solve for you. Like that's the spot that you're like, I'm always gonna see an SEO tip, like period, point blank. And I named it Next Level Presence because I want to help, again, business owners and brand owners take their business to the next level.
Yeah.
Right now, everyone thinks the level to be at is just be social media famous.
Right.
I'm not operating there. What I'm saying is I want to take you to the next level where, oh, you can be social media famous. I am not, or listen, be famous in all areas that you can. Okay?
Absolutely.
Cool. But you do not need to miss out on getting actual like new and relevant customers consistently from something that you spent so much money on or time or energy or whatever you want to call it on your website. Like your website should not be collecting dust. Like let's take that to the next level. That's the whole point.
Wow.
Yep, that's what it is.
I love it. I love it. So many gems. I think, the best part about this for myself is I have always prided myself in this podcast on being able to help people shorten the learning curve and creating this umbrella of greatness, this living resume of greatness that, people like yourself that are experts in their field, you come on and you can listen to somebody that can give you absolute tips that work. And this has been, I'm excited. A lot of people don't know, like, I kind of geek out on stuff like that too, even though my patience ain't really cut out for tech, but
They happen.
I kind of geek out. But let me ask you this. What does success look like for you?
Success for me. Ooh, how do I put this? It's always, for me, there's layers, but my first one is I want to actually, this is a personal success metric, I want to be able to work 9 months out of the year and rest for 3. That's mine.
Ooh, I like it.
That's one of my goals. I even told, like, my business coach knows this, like, that is a goal. Like, when I get there, like, y'all cannot tell me nothing, okay?
Listen, I might adopt that one with you. I like the way that sounds.
Oh, yeah, like, I am thinking, like, my husband's on the same page. Like, I'm like, house in Barbados, because that's where I was born and raised. Like, house in Barbados, there for 3 months. Don't call me. Don't talk to me. From, like, December to March, I'm out.
I love it.
The other aspect of success for me is, like, I am a mentor. That's who I am. I'm not the person who's going to drag you. That's just not how I am. I want to mentor people. I honestly want to see more people of color actually use SEO and start dominating.
Yeah.
Like, when I say dominate, I want to see them dominating search results. Right now, almost every time I search something, like I said, I do this for fun a lot, but I search something, it's not a person of color.
Right.
It's not, like, it's actually sad because, again, we keep asking for a seat at the table, but we refuse to go in those spaces. So I really want to see more people of color in the top results on search engines on Google, because that's what I use mostly.
Sure.
I want to see people using YouTube SEO. I want to see people using Pinterest more too. That's a big Pinterest is a visual search engine, which also will rank above text search results on like Google.
Oh wow!
And people don't get on it. It's maddening.
She said it's. I can hear it in your voice. You're like, ah.
Oh, it makes me upset because it's like, you can actually get to the top with just a photo. Like,
but I think Pinterest has this. I think Pinterest has this notoriety for being only towards a certain audience, right? So, like, if you were on a certain, but if you were on a certain podcast, would you suggest that a certain podcast with an awesome host have a Pinterest page?
Heck yeah! Most of the people that I end up following on Instagram, Twitter, or even like bookmarking their blog posts, I find from Pinterest. Wow.
Okay.
Like, I spend way more time on Pinterest than I do on Instagram and Twitter, actually.
I love it.
And most of my traffic comes from Pinterest. Like, when I say social, like, I have this whole, like, dashboard in my Google Analytics. And, like, organic traffic is still my number 1.
Okay.
But when it comes to my social media traffic, which is my number 2, Pinterest is first. Twitter second. Instagram is only 5% of my traffic.
Wow.
5%. Pinterest brings in so much more than that, because Pinterest is the same way. Your post lasts 4 months, but if you went on Pinterest today and search for anything, like literally you can search anything, SEO, podcast, affirmations, business tips, QuickBooks, like think of a topic and put it in there. The only difference between that and Google is that Google obviously has like years and years and tons of information. So we can't compare on that. But the only difference is that it's an image that you see first and not words. That's the only difference.
Gotcha.
The only difference.
Gotcha. Okay,
That's
so we went off track. Sorry. The second success metric for yourself is
sorry, I went off track there, yeah. The second success metric is I want to see more people of color like dominating search results. Like I want to see it. I don't see it now. And that's my mission, is to make this information more accessible and to shift the mindset about how we approach SEO. We need to stop leaving money on the table. Like I am going to be happy when I see a few people there. And then my other thing is, even in SEO as well, you actually don't see a lot of like Black women, like actually like accepted as experts. So one of my goals and one of my things that I like, again, you won't be able to tell me nothing, like nothing, is when like top SEO companies, like there's a space website called Search Engine Journal, and there's also like they're very popular on Twitter amongst SEO professionals called SEMrush. It's an SEO tool.
Okay.
Like when they're like calling me to do a chat, I'm gonna be like, great, I made it.
I love. She said bye. Now the price just went up, right?
Oh heck yeah! Listen. At any point, I'm telling y'all, ask me to do a chat. There's no question my price is going zero.
I love it. She's like, that same day I'm going in and the prices are getting adjusted. I love it. As they should. So
really no question.
One of the last questions that I have, and we're getting close to wrap it up, is this notion of running a business and there should be some kind of balance. You're a wife, you're a mom, you're a business owner. Yeah. What does balance look like for you? I hear the sigh. What does balance look like for you?
This is so funny. We were just talking about this on my stories the other day. There's no such thing as balance, okay? Or at least I should say our concept of balance is off. I think of my balance as like a cake.
Okay.
Let me explain. A cake has like a lot of ingredients, but each ingredient has its own measurement. So like some days to make the cake, to make my life workable, I might need to get up, earlier than normal. Like let's say in Q1, I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get stuff done for like an hour and a half. My daughter would wake up around 6. Then I'm like basically being a mom and a wife the whole day. And then in the evening, I'm like spending more time with family. And then I'm like, I was like, okay, I'm going to bed at 9 and just repeating it.
Right.
And that would be the cake. That was how I made my life workable. Well, now my daughter's older. She's 2. And so she wakes up when I wake up. So I'm like, we can just both get some more sleep. So, I shifted my life to now I wake up at 6 a.m. and I go to bed at 11. I'm still getting my sleep though, but I'm also going to spend time with my family. Even like when I like my capacity for how many clients I can take a month, like that's all worked around. Like I need to be able to sleep, to rest, to read a book, to do all that.
Yeah.
And I also say this every single time. The only reason I'm able to, not the only reason, one of the main reasons I'm able to do what I do is because my husband supports it. Having someone in your life, whether it's a boyfriend, partner, family member, who can help you navigate those transitions and like that work-life balance, what they call it, is super important. Because if you don't have that, then you're just going to burn yourself out no matter what you try to do. So that's how I do it. That's literally how I do it.
I like it. It helps a lot because I think, again, as entrepreneurs or dream chasers, even if it's not a business, if you're a dream chaser, even if it's, just trying to get ahead in your 9 to 5, there's this thought process that you have to do it all every day. And
no, absolutely not. You would die.
Yeah, I think people need to, even myself, we have to learn how to, take our foot off the gas every once in a while before our body does it for us.
And you need to rest. Like, I would say, like, instead of saying balance, curate your life. Nice. That whole idea of curation, curate your life. There are some days that I do a lot more, like, personal, like, folding laundry, stuff like that
Yeah.
in my day than I do anything business. And I have an achiever mindset. So for me, I have to shift to thinking like, I've achieved something today. Not like I've only achieved stuff today. I've achieved something today. I've also had times where my achievement is that I rested, sat my butt on the bed, did nothing else. That's my achievement for the day.
Yeah.
You know, I have days where the achievement I had was spending 3 hours on the phone with my brother. Like, it doesn't always, like, as business owners, we're usually at the center of who we are. We usually, like you said, we're dream chasers. We want to know we're making, you know, all this progress towards our goals.
Right.
And part of the progress towards your goals is resting, investing in yourself as a human. Like, have a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, like, you got to find ways to recharge yourself.
Absolutely.
That's how you balance. If you want to talk about balance, that's it right there. Like, you have to recharge yourself.
Absolutely.
Giving to people or selling all that stuff from the empty cup, you will burn out, and then you will hate the very thing that you said that you loved.
Right.
And it becomes a whole nightmare. So always recharge yourself. Remind yourself that what's for you is not going to miss you, which is so true. Because part of it is that we feel that if we don't do it now, we're going to miss out. That's so not true. That's the FOMO mentality that, unfortunately, like I said, social media has really brought into our lives.
Yes.
Like, if you rest, no one's going to miss out. Zero. The people that need to find you, that need your service, will
still find you. FOMO, fear of missing out. How much time do you spend, even at your level, how much time do you spend studying your craft, the new methods, the new inventions, the new apps, or whatever the case is? How much time do you spend being a student of the game?
I would say 15 minutes every day. It's actually one of the, I think I tweeted about this too. I always spend at least 15 minutes reading something SEO, practicing something about SEO every single day. I don't always, like, again, I have a 2-year-old. So
right.
I don't always have the time to do it like 2 hours straight. Like today I got to do it like for 3 hours straight, which was beautiful. But 15 minutes, it's a small way to like stay on top of your game, stay informed. Know like, okay, that's changed, Google's changed, we don't need to do that anymore type thing. But like 15 minutes is what I do. Just like literally just 15 minutes, and you can read like 3 articles in 15 minutes.
I like it because it also creates a habit, right? Because it's a short amount of time that's achievable. It creates a habit, and that's what I think a lot of people miss while working on their businesses and studying their own craft is staying educated on it.
Yeah, I would give a tip that you can use here that helps me is that I usually, like, I love Google Chrome, and maybe everyone's not a Google Chrome user, but I would still download it on your phone, because what Google Chrome does is when you tend to, like, do certain things, like, especially in your business, you will probably search or pull up websites that have to do with your business. Then what Google Chrome does is that they actually will start suggesting articles that fit with your searches.
Yes.
SEO again.
Yes.
But what happens is that then at the end of the day, while you're at lunch, whatever, you can just go through and keep clicking, and you'll be able to like find that stuff faster. Because the usual question is like, where do I go find this stuff to read it in 15 minutes? Like, curate your online experience to help start suggesting this stuff to you, so it just starts being there. Then it won't feel like I gotta go find it. That's what I do.
I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the absolute world famous Miss Tamara Sykes. Don't leave any money on the table. Where can everyone find you online?
Online, right now, the best way to find me is baitinggirl.com, and then soon to be NextLevelPresence.com. So once you find me there, you know where I am.
I love it. I love it. I'm a fan. I'm going to send everyone your way. So anybody that comes to me and says, Chuck, my website isn't performing, I'm going to say, listen, episode 35, I already know who you need to talk to. I want to thank you so much for your time, for jumping on with us and sharing so many nuggets. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. It was absolutely awesome to be here.
Oh man, so much fun. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you've been listening to the Hawk Vision Podcast with Tamara Sykes. We're talking SEO. We are talking not leaving any money on the table. 93% of web traffic is processed, and we're just not there. We got to get there, guys. Like, share, subscribe with other visionaries just like yourself. This is the Hawk Vision Podcast. We will talk.
Representing East Oakland, man.